You're listening to the School Leadership Reimagined podcast, episode 81. Hey, builders, welcome to another episode of the School Leadership Reimagined podcast. I'm your host, Robyn Jackson, and today we're going to talk about a phrase that I hear thrown around a lot lately. And that phrase is start with a why. And it comes from a famous TED Talk that Simon Sinek gave years ago, where he talked about why it's really important to start with the why. And people have co-opted his ideas, and they repeat a lot. We've got to start with a why and go out there, especially, I see a lot of school leaders doing this. They go out there and they start telling people about their why. Here is why I want to transform this school. And it almost feels heroic when people start talking about their whys. They share these passionate stories about because every child deserves a good education and these babies deserve to have rigorous and challenging instruction. And people go out and they share their why in these impassioned ways. And then they wonder why people still don't buy in, why staff members still resist them, why staff members covertly steer out themselves outside of that why people don't seem to care, and people get really frustrated. And the reason that happens, the reason that when you share your why, it doesn't always result in immediate buy-in from everybody on your staff, is because nobody cares about your why. So we're going to talk about that today on this episode. But before we do, I have a couple of quick announcements. First announcement is that Builders Lab tickets are available right now. And so a lot of people have been reaching out to me in DMs on social media, and they're asking whether or not we're doing another virtual Builders Lab. And we are. We are doing BL 360, the Builders Lab, the 360-degree experience in January. So the dates for that Builders Lab are January 25 through 27. And because we're doing it virtually, you don't have to travel anywhere. You will have to take off work because this is not something you can have playing in the background. This is a fully immersive 360-degree experience. So as part of that experience, we spend 3 days. And during those 3 days, we accomplish a couple of things. First, we get really clear on your vision for your school. We help you develop a vision that includes 100% of your students and a vision that is so inspiring to you that it re-energizes your work. The second thing we do is we help you figure out what is the best pathway to achieving your vision. And so we show you how to figure that out. We take a look at things that are happening in your school. You get support around understanding what's happening. And you also, once you see those barriers, we give you strategies and tools that you can use to start removing those barriers in the way of your vision. You walk out of Builders Lab with what we call the Builders Blueprint. That blueprint tells you this is the best pathway to achieving your vision right now with the people and resources you already have. And then we also help you develop a 90-day plan to get started, a 90-day plan that results in, at the end of that 90 days, one of your biggest obstacles is no longer a problem. It's completely removed. And we don't just spend 3 days together, we spend 3 months together, because after that 3 days of intensive training, you get 3 months of follow-up support. That includes office hours with me every single month where you can bring challenges and we can work through them together, and I can give you that coaching, live coaching. Also, we have check-in emails where you can write to me directly and tell me what's going on. We also send you an email every single week outlining what steps you need to be taking that week that help you be accountable. And we also have a closed Facebook group just for Builders Lab alumni so that you can share resources and stay in touch with the people that you meet at Builders Lab. So this is not just 3 days of training. This is really signing up for 3 months of support. And what that means is that when you come to Builders Lab in January, by April, you've already seen some success. We show you how to figure out what to work on right now, what will give you the biggest bang for your buck. We show you how to create a plan to actually achieve that. And then 90 days from now, you're telling a success story. We're just finishing up the 90-day process with our Builders Lab folks this summer. So we met with them this summer, and we're here in November, and we're just finishing up. So this is something that stays with you. We're not just kind of, going to teach you something and leave you out there. We walk alongside of you. But the success stories that are coming out of the summer have been really incredible. I'm just so proud of the work that people are doing as a result of their time at Builders Lab. even in these crazy times. And I think the same thing is going to be happening in January. In fact, I know it does because it happens every single time we have Builders Lab. So to get your tickets to Builders Lab, go to mindstepsinc.com/builders dash lab. Second announcement. We are almost full. We've almost reached our limit for founding members of Buildership University. So, Buildership University will be officially open in January, but we release a limited number of founding member tickets. And we have about 9 left. And then after that, we are going to close down enrollment to Buildership University until January. Now, if you miss the founders, kind of level, it's okay because in January you'll be able to join. But founding members have a particular advantage. So I was meeting with our founding members this week, and we just went through the Building Master Teacher Sprint together. First of all, this is an incredible community of people. Our founding members are some of the smartest, most committed builders I've ever met. It's one of the reasons why they've stepped up to become founding members. And we have been creating such a community together. We meet together live very frequently, not just for office hours where people can bring their individual challenges, but we're meeting together in sprints like the one we just completed, where we're building the tools, the resources, the systems that we need in order to exercise our buildership in our school this year. So just last week, we finished building our support system for our teachers. Everybody has a teacher dashboard now, and we're using that. And the teacher dashboard is just revealing so much. It's just the conversations that we're having inside of that founders group they're just priceless conversations. So if you want to be a part of a community of builders who can lift you up, who are doing really important, interesting, and amazing things in their schools, and who are dedicated and friendly, and we're going to be getting together. I've got this really cool social plan for our founding members. We're going to be getting together virtually to hang out. So it's not just about getting work done, although we do work together really well. We're also going to be hanging out and getting to know each other. It's becoming this really close-knit, tight-knit community. But 9 more spots for founding members. And so if you are interested in being a founding member, what you need to do is go to buildershipuniversity.com, and you can fill out an application to become a founding member. So buildershipuniversity.com to become a founding member, but hurry up because we only have 9 slots left. And once we hit that limit, we're closing down Buildership University until January. Okay, so that's it for the announcements. Now, let's talk about this. I know it seems kind of harsh when I say nobody cares about your why, but I got to speak the truth to you because nobody cares about your why. When Simon Sinek first created that video, that TED Talk, that he talked about how companies have to lead with why. Nobody cares about what you do until they understand why you do it. And so he's talking about companies and products, and that language got co-opted in education. Everybody's saying, start with your why, start with your why. And it seems like it makes sense, right? Nobody wants to follow you as a leader until they understand your why, what's driving your work. And in a leadership paradigm, that logic makes sense. But remember, builders aren't looking for people to follow them. Builders are looking for people to join them in building something better. So I don't care that you follow me. In fact, the best builders build other builders. So I'm not interested in keeping you behind me and my staying out front. I'm interested in our working together, bringing our collective wisdom and talent and expertise together for something bigger and better and greater than either of us. So it's not me in front of you. I'm not a boss. I'm not a leader. We are co-builders. And if you take that position, if you think about buildership as being something invitational rather than you're dragging people or coaxing people or pushing people towards your goal, instead you are inviting people to join you in this work. If you really think about buildership that way, then going around and telling people your why and assuming that's the end of the conversation is never going to work. So a lot of people took this idea of start with your why and they began to walk around and tell people about their why. And it feels good. It feels gratifying. You are getting in touch with your why. You're telling people why you do what you do. And as you're talking about it, it feels really good. It feels like you're being inspirational. You've tapped into your why. But if you just talk about your why, but you never take the time to understand everybody else's why, then you're having all the fun. It's just like watching a teacher in front of the classroom, performing math or performing science or performing English or performing social studies. They're having all the fun, and the kids are sitting back and watching them and saying, well, that's great for you, but it has nothing to do with me. People don't care about your why. What they care about is their why. But how often do we take time to really understand what why is driving our teachers? How often do we take time to include their why in the narrative of our school? And the answer, unfortunately, is not much. A lot of people talk to me now about what do I do about my burned out teachers? And they assume they know why teachers are burned out. They make assumptions that their teachers are burned out for the obvious reasons, the movement back and forth between virtual learning and in-person learning, managing the technology. Those may be the things that people openly complain about. Ultimately, their concerns are not just about those external factors. Their concerns are really about how those external factors impact the work that they are trying to do with students internally. You see, the technology bothers me, or my lack of facility with the technology bothers me, because that is a barrier that's getting in the way or getting in between me and being able to reach my students. I may have been a really good teacher in the classroom. May have been really good about establishing relationships with students in the classroom. And now on technology, I don't know how to get that same magic. But my why for teaching is about those relationships, and technology is standing in between my why. That's why I'm mad at technology, not because I can't figure out what button to push. That technological concern, just looking at it and saying, well, I'm unfamiliar with technology. If you just did that, then you're going to give me training around technology without really dealing with my why. And my why has nothing to do with the buttons to push. You could give me a training for an hour and I know all the buttons to push and which things to do and how to get everything up on the screen, and you still have not solved my problem because you assumed that my problem was technology when my real problem is about my why. You see, when Simon Sinek was talking about start with the why, he wasn't talking about starting with your why. He was really talking about understanding the whys of the people we are working with, that we're building, and starting with their why. We assume that teachers are burned out because everybody's working harder now. But that's not the only reason. That's the external problem. The internal problem is we're working really hard, but we're not seeing results. Students are not showing up. Students are not engaged in the same way. So I'm working harder than ever, but I'm not seeing the same results. I'm not seeing that aha moment in students' faces because they're not there. That's the real problem. And that problem speaks to my why, that I want to do work that makes a difference. And I feel like I'm working harder and I'm making less of a difference. Until you understand that and until you can articulate that, no strategy that you use to help boost teacher morale, no strategy that you use to help overcome teacher burnout is going to work. I remember one time I was hired by a school district to come and work with their teachers because they said our teachers are so burned out. They're so overwhelmed. And I'd just written a book called Never Work Harder Than Your Students. And so the district said, I think it's because they're working harder than their students. And so could you come and teach them not to work harder than their students? And I made the mistake back then of saying, okay, I'll come without asking more questions. So I did. I came and I started my presentation with the teachers and was talking about ways to not work harder than their students. And the teachers were just stone faced. There was just a wall. And finally, I just stopped and I said, okay, so what's really going on? And the teachers looked to the right and the left, realized that the administration had started the meeting, but like they typically did, they had left somewhere in the middle of the training to take care of more important stuff and they weren't present for the training. So the teacher said, here's the real problem. 3 years ago, they introduced 6 traits writing to us. They told us that it was the way to go into teach writing. And we learned the curriculum. We went to the trainings. We got the materials. And we actually believe in 6 traits writing. We've seen the difference it makes in our students. This year, they come to us and they say they've changed the state test. And so now we're not doing 6 traits writing anymore. And as a result, they now want us to teach BCR. So they want us to throw away everything that we've already done. But we believe in that. That's important to us. We want our students not to be good test takers. We want them to be good writers. But they won't let us teach writing. That's why we're burned out. What the teachers were doing is they were sneaking and teaching six traits writing, except for the days that they had to do benchmark assessments. Then they'd rush and try to teach all the BCR stuff so the kids would do well on the benchmarks, and then they go back to teaching six traits writing. But unfortunately, the administration saw their overwhelm and they didn't listen to the why behind it. The administration saw their frustration, but they made assumptions about why the teachers were frustrated, and they dealt with the surface problem rather than digging beneath the real problem. So my presentation just went out the window. I'm talking about never work harder than your students, and they're sitting there talking about how they are being forced into a curriculum that doesn't jibe with their why. So I just turned off the PowerPoint. I sat down and started working with them to help them try to figure out how they could do both, how they could satisfy their why, but also satisfy this mandate that was happening with the district. I flew across the country to do that when if the administrative team had just taken 5 minutes to listen to the teachers why, they could have saved their money and they could have solved that problem on their own. So nobody cares about your why. And maybe I should say it this way. Nobody cares about your why first. First, you have to deal with their why. There's a guy who, and his name escapes me right now, but he teaches advertising. And one of the things he said that a lot of marketers repeat as a mantra over and over again is that if you want to sell somebody something, you can't interrupt the conversation that they have going on in their head. You have to join the conversation they have going on in their heads. Well, the same thing is true if you're going to be a builder. You don't go interrupt people's conversation that they're having in their heads by touting your why. What you need to do is you need to understand their why. And then when you come in with your vision and you come in with your why, you connect that to their why. Or otherwise, they're going to say, well, that's real nice for you. I'm glad you have found your why, but you still haven't dealt with my why. You have to listen to people. You have to understand not just their external problem, but what's going on with them internally. And usually that internal problem comes down to there's an incongruency between their why and what they're being asked to do. You really want to solve teacher overwhelm. If you really want to help your teachers during these difficult times, you need to stop going around and touting your why and take some time to listen to their why first. That's what's most important, their why. And then once you understand their why, then they have already given you the answers. They've shown you how to help them solve their problem. And as a builder, you, equipped with that knowledge around their why, you can start helping build something that not only appeases their why, but also appeases yours. And I'd say appease, and it's probably not the right word because you're not appeasing anybody. You can build something that satisfies, that's the word I'm looking for, satisfies their why and satisfies your why. In fact, when you understand people's why, you can share your vision with them in a way that helps them see how your vision directly connects with their why. And then you don't have to worry about buy-in. You don't have to worry about convincing or cajoling or dragging or pushing people towards your goal, because the moment they see how your vision for the school connects with their why, they're on board because they're trying to solve their why anyway. So I think we need to reverse the order. First, you need to start with their why. Now, over time, you'll share your why. I think it's important for you to share your why. It helps people trust you. It helps people understand where you're coming from. But your why is not the most important why out there. Theirs is. So I'm not saying suppress your why. I'm not saying, make your why the victim of their why. I'm saying your why is not the only why out there. And until you understand what other people's whys are, until you are able to connect what you're building to their why, they will not join you. So I know a lot of you right now are dealing with teachers who are overwhelmed. You may be feeling overwhelmed yourself. I know a lot of you are anxious to get back to the most important work. And it seems like right now, because of all the logistical nightmares that are happening as we're trying to navigate this new learning environment, it's really hard to stay focused on the right work. And I know a lot of you now are really trying anxiously to get your teachers centered and focused and working on the right things. But I'm telling you, you're not going to get there by starting with your why. You're not going to get there by ignoring their fundamental real concerns and just trying to solve their superficial concerns. In fact, if you just focus on their superficial concerns, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. You're going to run around, you're going to give teachers exactly what you think they want, and they're not going to be satisfied. And then you're going to think it's because they're being ungrateful. They're not being ungrateful. You solved their external problem, but you didn't take the time to understand the internal problem, their why. You didn't solve anything. You've placated them. But if you approach this like a builder, then you're going to listen for their why. You're going to actively work to solicit their why. You're going to find the common ground between their why and your why and their why and the next person's why. And you're going to co-create a vision, mission, and core values, a sense of school purpose that accommodates everybody's why, that includes everybody's why. And when you do that, you don't have to worry about getting buy-in. People will automatically start to quote unquote buy in because it's theirs. They own it. They're not having to buy anything. It's already theirs because it's connected to their why. And then they will start building, not because you forced them or made them or tricked them or appeased them. They're going to start building because they are committed to it, because what you're building solves their fundamental problem. So here's your challenge. Stop touting your why for a little bit. Take some time. Don't just listen to people's external problems. Probe a little deeper. Try to find out what is the internal problem that's going on. What is the why behind that external problem before you start trying to solve problems. And as you listen, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something really interesting. In most cases, our fundamental whys are the same. They're very similar. That's why we're attracted to this profession in the first place. There is common ground. There is a place to start where you can build on. And if you do that, then you can help teachers manage their overwhelm. You can figure out what the right direction for your school is right now. You can manage your overwhelm. You can get focused on the things that are important, and you will have your teachers with you. They will have bought in because it's not your why anymore. It's our why. And that's how you start with why, like a builder. That's it for this time. I will see you again next time.